Jai Prabhuji. Greetings and welcome to the Retroprogressive Yoga Institute. In this course, we are exploring the book of Prabhuji, Tantra, Liberation in the World. This is the book if you didn't see it yet, and it's, as usual, my recommendation is for you to get the book, especially now that we are at the beginning of this beautiful path that we're going to walk on together, exploring this book of this ancient wisdom. Today we are going to be speaking about the introduction of this volume, which for me lays the foundational pillars that guide its purpose and direction. I will say that although brief in length, it's only 4 paragraphs, it would be more appropriate to describe it as condensed, as it is precisely. Encapsulates the key elements that we're going to be, that we will develop in this class, and not only in this class, but in summary, I will say the introduction offers a synthesis of the themes and the arguments that we will address throughout the book. The book is very big. It has four sections, so even though it's lengthy, the introduction has all the points that we're going to see throughout the book, and I will purposely come back while we have our classes. I will come back to remember when we had it in the introduction, so you have a better picture. But today we're going to try to deepen and to comprehend better what we find in this introduction, and I would like to show it to you too. It has, as I said, it's brief. It's only 4 paragraphs. As you can see, it's this page. This is the page of the introduction. And it has these 4 paragraphs, and these are the paragraphs that we're going to be visiting today. So I would like to start. And the first one says, Tantra refers to a very diverse corpus of scriptures, techniques, rites, and teachings. It is hard to define because of this wisdom's multifaceted, mystical nature. Nobody knows its age with certainty, but like the Vedas, it is considered eternal. It was cultivated and practiced in areas where Brahmanism was less influential, such as northwestern India, Bengal and Assam in the east, and Andhra in the south. Subsequently, Tantrism expanded, influencing not only Buddhism and Jainism, but each and every major religion of the world. So from our introductory class, we have established that Tantric revelation consists of a highly diverse corpus that includes scriptures, techniques, rituals, and sādhanā. Throughout our journey, we will then examine the path that have influenced this vision, observing practices that were initially accepted by society, but later became transgressive, and then how these over time have been internalized within the practitioner's body. And this is only to set one example of how diverse things can develop in what we are going to be presenting, from practices that were accepted, then become transgressive, and then they become to be accepted and even internalized. This was just an example to show how diverse and how the variety that we're going to find, not only in the practices, but in the scriptures, in the rituals, and the whole corpus that comprises what we call Tantra. We will also address the inherent difficulty in defining it. The term Tantra, nothing noting that how the term Tantra encompasses a wide range of disciplines. In a few classes we're going to dedicate to expand the part of the book where we find the definition of Tantra, and we're going to see how wide the term can be considered. Tantra is considered eternal, like the Vedas, due to its nature as a revelation and its transmission from generation to generation through the rishis or seers in this disciple succession, chain or parampara. Remember that in the first class, in our introductory class, we also spoke how this aspect that it's revealed is not intellectual knowledge that we find in the books, no, but it's something that is revealed from the divine, and then in order to keep the loyalty of this revelation, it was transmitted from master to disciple, from guru to disciple, and continuing this chain ensures that the wisdom is kept as it was revealed. We will also study in detail the regions where Tantra was developed in the corresponding section, which is going to be the developed of Tantra. And there we will also explore each of its path. It's important there how he's mentioning how it was richer, or it was able to develop even more in areas where the Brahmanism was not so present. So it was like an opportunity for the development of Tantra in those areas. Also, it's pertinent to mention Tantra's influence on different religions. Although Prabhuji focuses mainly on exposing its impact on Hinduism, he also recognizes its relevance in other religions such as Buddhism and Jainism, among others. And it's important that we put emphasis among others because it's something that we're going to learn when we continue delving into this path, how it influences, if not all religion, many of the religions that we have now in the world. I would like us to continue reading from the introduction. Although many in the West have become familiar with the term Tantra, few know its true meaning. The West has largely ignored the ancestral religious and spiritual systems of India that present an order of value different from its own. Since it is one of the traditions least studied by Western scholars, it has been misinterpreted and even condemned. Okay, so here this paragraph highlights a key distinction between Eastern and Western religions, particularly in relation to Tantra. In the West, while the term Tantra has gained some popularity lately, I will say, a deep understanding of it remains limited. And I will say that I dare to say that even using the word deep here, it's a lot. I will say that the understanding is very superficial. Even though we're saying that remains limited, I will say that the understanding is very superficial. And we see it very easily because of the fact that the term Tantra, it's always very associated with sex. And this is something that we are going to kind of break. I will say it's this myth that the Tantra it's associated so much with sex. Yes, as we explained in our introductory class, it's part of it, but this is not the essential of it, and this is something that we're going to discover throughout our course. So this misinterpretation, this limited knowledge that we have or perception that we have in the West in regards to Tantra it's partly because Eastern religions and spiritual systems, like those in India, present an order of values and a philosophical structure that is radically different from those predominant in the West. What we're going to see is that Semitic religions, which include Christianity, Judaism, Islam, are based on theological doctrines that are going to emphasize faith, sin, and universal morality. And then in comparison, we have Eastern traditions, especially those that are connected to Tantra, which are the ones that concern us, value direct and personal experience. They have the integration of spirituality in everyday life, and they also focus on an internal transformation that is going to transcend external norms. So while we have some traditions that are very concerned in external norms in order to control the behavior of their audience, of their followers, and we have something that is very applied to our daily life, but it's transcending these external norms. So this aspiration, these traditions that we're speaking about, the East, aspire to liberation from what we believe ourselves to be to what we truly are, in the words of Prabhuji. And this divergence has led to many Eastern spiritual systems like Tantra being ignored or misunderstood in the West, since they do not easily fit into Western religious and philosophical paradigms. Then Tantra has been often even condemned, or not only condemned, trivialized, as we were speaking in regards to the sex, how it's very much connected to the sex. The lack then of deep studies by Western scholars has contributed to a biased, or we can say an incomplete view, and is perpetuating this gap between the two cultural and spiritual traditions. Understanding Tantra from a Western perspective requires a conscious effort to recognize, and not only recognize, but also to respect the fundamental differences between these two worldviews. It is very difficult to understand Tantra if we see it, or if we try to comprehend it from the view and having as fundament the values of the Western religions. And also the opposite, if we try to look the Western religions from the views of Tantra, it will be also very difficult. But in order to comprehend both, we need to localize ourselves in the proper fundamentals, in the proper perspective, and then understanding their differences, the very radical differences in their values. Then we can understand and access them properly. But just to put a simple example, how valuable and the view that Tantra has to the body, and then we have these other religions that even feel that the body is an obstacle to reach sanctity. Of course, definitely there's going to be a very biased and even negative perspective when we try to look Tantra from this perspective of the West. I think that throughout the book, Prabhuji successfully bridges the gap in understanding Tantra, despite the inherent difficulty in finding reliable and objective sources on the source. As he himself points out, I think he manages to provide clarity, and it's offering an unbiased tantric vision, allowing for this deeper and more accessible understanding of this complex tradition that it will be impossible if we don't open and widen our view. Let's continue reading. This complex existential phenomenon cannot merely be described by words, since it is not an intellectual philosophy, but instead belongs to the world of experience. Tantra emphasizes practice over beliefs and philosophical theories. Scholars try to define Tantra, but yogis do not require any categorization. Tantrikas resort to philosophy only when it is essential to explain their worldview logically and clarify the theological and metaphysical meanings of their practices. In the end, the main intention of Tantra is self-knowledge. Let's stay with those last words where it says that the main intention of Tantra is self-knowledge. And also let us note the importance of noting once again how important is the direct experience, the vivencial aspect of this path. Here we are presented with an inherent challenge in studying Tantra, with this. It's essentially a experiential nature, which makes it difficult to define merely verbally or conceptually. It's telling us that unlike other philosophical currents that are structured around a theoretical system or different intellectual propositions, Tantra is fundamentally oriented towards practice. Remember this a phrase that a drop of practice is more valuable than 1,000 of theory. Then here in Tantra, placing direct experience above beliefs or philosophical constructs, it's very important. And in this sense, the scholars' efforts to categorize, to put Tantra within a very definable framework often prove insufficient or inadequate, as they fail to capture its entire vision. In order for us, I will say that it's not even possible to capture the entire vision of Tantra, but for sure, in order to realize what really Tantra is, it is important to give the preeminence, the relevance to the practical part of it. For yogis and tantrikas, philosophy is not an end in itself, but it will be like an auxiliary means that is used only when necessary to logically articulate tantric experiences and practices. And I like us to emphasize these parts: when necessary to logically articulate tantric experiences, because for them it was not even necessary, like it was not something that they were busy with. They were busy with the experiences, with the revelation. Their body was like a laboratory, a lab, where they were conducting all these experiments in order to realize what they really are, to promote this union with the divine. And then when it was necessary to logically articulate these experiences, this is when they use philosophy and they try to explain verbally their direct experiences. And it's explaining us here how in this way Tantra moves away from philosophy as a theoretical discipline and focuses on the process of self-knowledge, which we saw it's the main intention of this path, which is an objective which is achieved through direct experience rather than intellectual speculation. Thus, while scholars may feel the need to resort to philosophical categories to attempt to explain Tantra, the direct practitioners, the Tantrikas, rely on experience as the primary path to understanding. The nature of Tantra therefore transcends the limits of theory and enters in the realm of transformation and self-knowledge. Then I want us to read the last paragraph of this introduction, which says that until we develop enough sensitivity, we will not be able to grasp Tantra. However, we can say without a doubt that getting closer to tantric sensual spirituality makes us more authentic and real. Tantra leads us to discover deep aspects of our experience that lie dormant or repressed. It guides us to the revelation of our inherent potential that is hidden deep within us. Understanding Tantra requires a level of sensitivity that goes beyond the purely intellectual. It is not, as we saw in our previous paragraph, it's not merely theoretical or academic knowledge, but it's a sharp and profound perception that is going to allow one to delve into its very essence of this ancient practice. Until such sensitivity is developed, Tantra will remain largely inaccessible, as its nature is intrinsically experiential and cannot be grasped by purely rational means. For me, this initial sentence, my humble opinion, is that establishes an essential requirement for accessing tantric revelation. However, the following sentences, it's clarifying that even without fully developing this sensitivity that is required to access completely or entirely the tantric revelation, any approach to this ancient wisdom makes us more authentic, okay? And approaching tantric spirituality, especially in its sensual dimension, confronts us with an authenticity that is difficult to find in other spiritual traditions. So this is something very specific and special about Tantra. This sensual spirituality refers to a form of spiritual practice that integrates and values sensory and bodily experiences as part of the path to spiritual realization. So rather than seeing the body and the senses as obstacles to spiritual growth, this perspective considers them legitimate and valuable means of achieving a state of greater awareness, or what we can say, a union with the divine. In the context of Tantra, for example, sensual spirituality encompasses not only sexuality, but also a deep connection with the senses, the body, the vital energy, or prana, as pathways to self-knowledge and transcendence. So something that we're going to hear also in regards to this path is this unconditional acceptance of what we are, of what we have. And because of this, it's going to use and take advantage of whatever we have. This is how things are. I accept it, and then I also use it in order to realize what I am. This is something that characterizes this path a lot, the way that it is using everything that is available in order to transcend the human conditioning and to approach to this union with the divine. So once again, instead of focusing on abstract doctrines or beliefs, Tantra is inviting us to experience reality directly and profoundly, not to remain in the surface as we might in many other paths, but to go to direct experience and not to remain in the surface, but go profoundly, go deeply. And through this immersion that the Tantra is inviting us, the individual begins to discover aspects of their existence that have remained latent, whether due to repression or simply because of a lack of awareness. And these aspects, which lie hidden deep within our being, contain an inherent potential that, when revealed, transforms our perception of ourselves and the world around us. Tantra, then, in its essence, it's going to be a process of self-knowledge, as we saw in this previous paragraph in regards to the intention. And it goes beyond the superficial. It is not going to be limited to a merely exercise of introspection, but it's guiding us toward a broader and deeper understanding of our own nature. This journey inward leads us to discover the latent potential we all possess, a potential that once unveiled allows us to live more authentically and in harmony with our true essence. It's provoking this integration of all our aspects. I will say that ultimately Tantra offers us a way to realize who we really are. And a few things that I would like to clarify about what we just shared. Once again, the fact that it's speaking about a hidden potential. So it is telling us how it's something that we already have. It's already there. It's hidden. And then through this path, we can find the different ways in order to access it, access this latent potential that is in us. The importance that this path is giving to the body. And something that I would like to clarify is not to be confused in regards to different terms that we're using, like going inward or profound. And we spoke about external earlier, and we're not speaking about an space like inward. It's inside the internal organs, like from my skin inside, and then exterior is from my skin outside this space. But we're speaking more in regards to levels of consciousness, and when we're speaking about inward, we are speaking about going deeper into what we really are. We said that a distance from what we really are means even going down, and elevating ourselves is closer to what we really are and higher in levels of consciousness. This is only to provide a small explanation, but we are definitely going to continue delving deeper into these terms and more into the, I would say, mystery, because of the view that we have in regards to Tantra in the West. We already explained how it's biased and even condemned, so I will say that it remains very mysterious what this path is bringing us. And throughout this course, we're going to continue delving into it and revealing this mysterious path. Thank you so much for joining us today. Jai Prabhuji.